Hello guys, it's me, Megan, doing a dramatic reading and criticizing it at the same time. Yeah, I don't really want to whip out the camera and I have to go to work today, so I'm just going to do this in a dramatic reading style. Today we are reading a fanfic called The Death of the FanFic Critic by Hammohamster. This is not on her fanfiction.net account, it's on her LiveJournal account. The person who sent this to me said that they're not sure if this is really Hammohamster or not, but seeing I read through half the story, I do think it is her. And I even contacted her yesterday and showed her the link to it to see what she would say. She hasn't replied. So something tells me this is the real deal. And if it isn't the real deal, I'm sorry, Hammohamster, but if it is, well, let's just read the story. First, let's start with the author's note. I wrote this a few years ago when the FanFic Critic wrote a story calling me out on ff.net. Yeah, that is true. I did do that, and I immediately removed the story because I realized it wasn't a good idea, and I was just trying to prove a point. Before I had a chance to upload this story, she apologized, and we became all good and stuff. However, I feel I still have the right to upload the story because she humiliated me on ff.net and YouTube. Last I checked, sweetheart, you humiliated yourself long before I got a hold of your stories. Let's see, wasn't one of your stories read on that guy with the glasses? In fact, it was read in a live video on that guy with the glasses. Yeah, I think you got humiliated long before I came into the picture, honey, but whatever. I do not mean to start a new war, but to end an old one. Well, seeing you said that this happened a few years ago, actually it was over a year ago, it wasn't a few years ago, this whole little war here, if I'm to call it that, would have ended then. So, you are kind of starting something new by writing this story. I don't know if you're really that stupid or if you're just trying to lie your ass off. But either way, you are starting something new by writing this. Let's continue. A story like this does not break any rules as this is only between me and the FFC and we are technically okay with each other now. Actually, it would be breaking rules because A, something tells me that you used my real name in this, and B, if this is supposedly between me and you, Hammohamster, why the heck are you publishing it on the internet for other people to read? Logic. Learn to use it. Let's see if she does actually use my real name in this fanfic. One evening, Megan Wessels, aka the FanFic Critic, sat down in her home. Wow, the very first sentence. Yeah, this is definitely breaking the rules. I can see why you didn't post it on fanfiction.net. She was very lonely. She didn't have any friends, and her life consists of putting up lame, unfunny videos of her criticizing fanfiction while dressed as the nostalgia critic. I will admit my old outfit did kind of look like his. That's why I changed it so it doesn't look the same. If you guys have seen the full suit, I just wear a full suit with a collar. Trust me, I changed it for a reason. She seriously wanted attention and wanted a nice pole to ride up and down, but she knew her striking ugliness was too severe to woo even the drunkest man or woman. Okay, so she thinks I want to buy a pole to dance in my room with. Okay. Maybe I can fuck Aliento, thought Megan as she fingered herself. Then she remembered that he was gay. She was saddened because she was reminded of the fact that she didn't have a dick. Actually, I'm very glad I don't have a dick. I would imagine that would be very uncomfortable, especially if you get an erection. She wept as she looked at her ginger snatched covered with pimples. Ginger snatch? Is she trying to say that I'm a redhead? Hammohamster, please get glasses. Well, people might consider me a dirty blonde, but I consider myself a brunette. Big difference between the two. And that doesn't make any sense. Are you saying that my hair is covered in pimples? I don't think that's physically possible. If it was, I would go to a doctor because that's not normal. She really wished that she was a man. I'm sorry, but wishing to be a dude would not get rid of acne problems. In fact, some men get it a lot worse than women do. She thought about stalking the nostalgia critic and killing him so she may skin him and wear him has a suit like Buffalo Bull in Silence of the Lambs. Oh yes, because I always fantasize about killing the Nostalgia Critic and skinning him. But she knew she was too poor and chicken to kill or harm anything. Actually, I wouldn't kill or harm anything because most normal people don't do that. She looked up at the clock and saw that her 20-minute break she allowed herself in between making videos was over. Actually, I don't have a 20-minute break. I just film whenever I have the chance to film. In fact, I tend to film like once a week now. Does this woman not realize that I actually have a job outside of this show? It was time for her to make another lame video. She went into her poorly lit room and put on her once-washed Nostalgia Critic clothing. You know, if I seriously did dress up as a Nostalgia Critic, I would A, wear a hat, and B, wear a tie. Last I checked, I don't have either of those things. And trust me, I do wash that outfit on a regular occasion. She put her ginger hair into a bun and sat down in front of her computer. After looking at some yaoi, whatever that is, she turned on her grainy webcam and changed the contrast so that the viewers couldn't see her freckles and pimples, which were very common with gingers. I'm sure people who really are gingers are really loving this story, how she's portraying you guys in this stereotype where you're all covered in pimples and have zits. Isn't she such a charming person? Oh, and by the way, the camera that I film with now is not a webcam, it's an HD camera. I don't even know what I'm reading tonight. Oh yes, because I always just randomly find fanfics off the top of my computer screen and just read them. She went on her DeviantArt and her gay little friends were suggesting a new horrible fanfic called Billy and Michael. Wait a minute, I thought that Hammohamster said in the beginning of the story that I didn't have any friends. You know, Hammohamster, you need to be consistent with these stories. You can't just say in one part, oh, she doesn't have any friends, and then in the next part say that she does have friends. Kind of contradicts yourself. How Their Zombies Found Love, written by Hammohamster. Megan creamed her panties at the mention of that name. Oh, Hammo, she whispered out loud. She knew about Hammohamster, and she have reviewed 3 of her stories on her show. Don't you mean, and she has reviewed 3 of her stories on her show? I know that she claims that she's not native to this country, but I think she's been here long enough where she should know proper English by now. She loathed her and practically looked at her FF.net page constantly, waiting for a new story so she can rant and rave in the reviews. Yeah, Hammohamster, dream on. I'm not that obsessed with you that I constantly watch your fanfiction.net page. Most of the time people point me out to you, and that's how I start to read your stories. Ever thought of that? Obviously not. Even though she hated her, she was drawn to her. See, Megan had a secret she will never admit. It would ruin her flax persona of being hardcore and crazy or whatever she's trying to steal from Nostalgia Critic. I don't think the Nostalgia Critic is actually crazy. He's sadistic, but he's not crazy. My character being crazy is my own thing. Her face burned at the thought of the secret. The FanFic Critic was in love with Hammohamster. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. No, Hammohamster, after reading this, I'm beginning to think that you secretly have a crush on me and just don't want to admit it. Let's continue. She realized that her obsession wasn't just hate after she first read the Ballad of Glenn and Barak to herself. She realized that her persistence turned her on. Oh yes, because reading horrible fanfic really turns me on. Bullshit. She continuously went to her page so she may see what she is still writing stories. If she was still writing stories. If she didn't update in 2 weeks, she felt depressed and contemplated suicide, but when she updated, she felt warm because it was like she had a real friend. Wow, this girl is delusional. This slowly turned into love, and Megan couldn't help but fall in love with the Yemen-born writer. Yeah, that right there is definitely a hint that this is the real Hammohamster. She never really wondered what she looked like, only knew that she wanted her to rough her up in bed. Okay, that last sentence was a fragment. She gripped her chair as she opened the link. The story was relatively shout. Relatively shout? Don't you mean relatively short? Longer than her drunken Hetalia stories, but shorter than the first chapter of the Ballad of Glenn and Barack. Okay, than, please and thank you. She knew she would hate it so much that she decided to read the story blindly for the camera. She read the summary, don't you mean read, the summary to herself before she started recording the episode. After rising from the grave, Michael Jackson and Billy Mays go on a killing spree, but even though they are cold and terrifying to their victims, they are warm and passionate to each other. Okay then. Megan stared at the summary for what seemed like hours. She looked up at the ceiling with rage boiling into the pit of her stomach. She crossed her arms and turned beet red. Steam came out of her ears, so I guess I turned into a cartoon character. She became sloping wet, or no, I should say sloping wet. That's how it's spelled. With the fact that Hammohamster pissed her off again. She had the perfect face to start the episode. She looks into the camera, all pissed for like 1 minute, which of course she doesn't edit out. Actually, I do edit out my long stares, you dumbass. Just when the viewer could have gotten bored and clicked on one of a FanFiction Critic's videos to suggest her in the suggested video bar because she's so much cuter and interesting. Ooh, Hammohamster, do you have a crush on Linny? Bow chicka bow wow. She spoke. Hi, I'm the FanFic Critic. I speak, you listen. No, it's actually, hi, hello, I'm the FanFic Critic, I read it, you listen. Geez, you're not even consistent when it comes to my catchphrase. She stares at the caramel... Okay, wow, the grammar in this story is like way worse than the grammar in her other stories. I think she meant to say camera for another minute. Hammohamster have done it again. You know, I'm so tempted to read this with a really stupid voice, just to mimic how Hammohamster's reading sounds, but I'm not going to. I don't understand her persistent need to write fan fiction about real people. Kind of like the fanfic that I'm reading right now. She has wrote another /fan fiction about Michael Jackson and Billy Mays as zombies falling in love with each other. Another /fan fiction about Michael Jackson and Billy Mays. So Hammohamster, have you written multiple stories about them being a couple? Again, proper grammar is your friend. Also, each other is 2 words, not 1. She widens her eyes, making the ugly lines on her forehead and face more visible to supposed comedic effect. Michael Jackson and Billy Mays, by the way, you spelled Billy Mays' last name wrong, fall in love with each other as zombies. She stares into the camaraderie. Is she like pulling these words out of her ass or something? For another minute, then sits back down calmly. So was I supposed to be standing up that entire time? Which would be hard to do, because how could I stare into the camera if I'm standing up? Because I'm sitting down right now. I'm using, the new webcam to record the audio. If I was standing up, the only thing you guys would be able to see is my midsection. So that doesn't make any sense, unless the camera magically floats up and follows my every move, which it doesn't. Okay. It is rated M, it is in English, and it is in the X over category. And our story begins. Megan wanted to change her panties because it was so wet, but she figured no one would notice. Okay, that was random. She began reading. So what did I do? Oh yeah, I creamed myself earlier. Yeah, in your dreams, Hammohamster. It was a snowy winter evening in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and Farmer Brown was checking on his cows. He had a heater installed in the barn to prevent the cows from getting too cold. He also had to check on it every now and then because it can overheat and it took a day to fix it. He slipped on the snow and fell, spraying his ankle. Spraying his ankle with what exactly? Don't you mean spraining his ankle? Fuck God. He rolled on the ground holding his ankle. He used a shovel that was nearby and used it to prop himself up. Snow covered his body from laying on the snow. You don't need the word snow in there twice. I know, this is her fanfic inside of the fanfic, but I'm still going to criticize it anyway. Damn it, dem cows are going to have to wait. And he hobbled back to his farmhouse. But when he was able to get up one step, he heard the cows moo loudly. He can hear them violently moving around in their stalls. don't you mean stalls. Obviously, they were being attacked or they were immensely spooked. This wasn't a case of a random fence hopper humping the cows without their consent like he thought his neighbor Red Wing Assassin fucking his pigs one night. Oh, wow. Wow. This is just pathetic. I mean, let's see. She has me in this story. She mentions Alianto, who also read one of her fanfics, and now she's mentioning Red-Winged Assassin, which was someone on fanfiction.net who was, leaving her negative reviews. I mean, how butthurt can this person get? I know that this was written a year ago and stuff, but still, it's quite clear to me that Hammohamster is still rather butthurt, seeing she decided to post this fanfic, very recently. It's really pathetic if you think about it. And also, why the hell... Wow, I mean, most of the story is the fanfic. You know what? I'm just going to skip the stupid fanfic that she put in here, and we're just going to skip to the actual fanfic that involves my character. So, let's read this. The fanfic critic sits and stares at the story with tears in her eyes. Blood trickled out of her nose in cunt. So is it my time of the month? And why do I have a bloody nose? She took out her knife and looks deep into the cheap-ass camera. Oh yes, because over $100 is really cheap-ass. I can't take it anymore, and she slits her throat. Well, at least she got me in character for this bit. Blood sprays all over the computer screen and the webcam, obscuring the viewer of her face. Thankfully, disgusting gargling sounds... Thankfully? Yeah, you're real charming. Disgusting gargling sounds filled the room as she twitched from the sudden blood loss. She swallows her tongue, which slips out of the hole in her neck. Okay. Her light flashed into the front of her eyes, which wasn't much. Okay, shouldn't you say her light flashed in her eyes? Or I don't know. She took the keyboard and smashed her head continuously. Okay, if I slit my throat, I highly doubt I would be strong enough to grab the keyboard and continuously smash myself in the head with it. And also, at the time that this story was written... I have a separate keyboard for my computer now because my old keyboard that's attached to my laptop broke. But let's say that this keyboard doesn't exist. I would have to pick up the entire laptop to be smashing it against my head. Blood trickled from her head, but she was still alive. She took her knife and took them into her eyes. Them? Don't you mean took it? Blood and eye fluid trickled out onto the keyboard and down her face. She wanted to scream, but she couldn't, no matter how hard she tried. She opened her shirt and started hacking away at her breasts. Okay, taking a handful of her breast fat and smearing it all over her face for style. Oh yes, I would so do this if I wanted to kill myself for reals. She then cut off her lips and her nose until she looked like a skull. I think at this point I would be dead from blood loss. This is just ridiculous. Then she fell face first on her keyboard and died. I wonder if Hammohamster is still bitter about me reviewing her fanfics on my show. Her Harry Potter poster, which hung behind her, suddenly comes to life. Yeah, when I had written that fanfic about you a year ago, I wasn't even living at that house anymore. In fact, the Harry Potter poster is long gone. It doesn't even exist anymore. I mean, talk about consistency. This woman is an idiot. It rips the tape off it and walks over to its dead master. Wow, this is just bizarre. Holy shit, what happened, said the poster. It jumped on the corpse back and looked at what she was reading. Hammohamster, huh? Well, let's conjure her up here to explain herself. Oh, and so now you're inserting yourself in the fanfic? This will be interesting. The poster used its magic wand to call Hammohamster in a cloud of dust. Too short, too skinny, light brown chick. Too short, too skinny. So is she trying to say that she's anorexic and a dwarf? Appears wearing a holster sweatshirt and jeans and Coke bottle glasses. This is Hammohamster. She was eating pokey when she looked down and saw an anthropomorphic or whatever poster standing on top of a bloody corpse of the fanfic critic. WTF, says Hammo, dropping her pokey. Look what you did, bitch. You and your stories pissing her off. What the hell? How is this my fault? It's her problem if they piss her off. Fuck her seriously. Now what the fuck am I... So I can go home. Oh no, you don't. You aren't going anywhere. We are going to avenge Megan's death. Get him, boys. All of the dead bitches posters came to life and started to move upon the awesome Yemen girl. Oh, you have got to be serious. This is quite entertaining, I will admit. She did a spinning kick on the Halo poster and the puppy calendar at the same time. So what did she do? Like, pause my old videos and study every single item in my room so she could write this fanfic? It's quite funny because she's trying to paint me as someone who's obsessed with her in this fanfic, yet when you read this, she has like every single detail from my old location down to like a T practically. Tiring them to shreds. I guess she meant to say tearing them. Her other posters, who are unidentifiable because Megan's granny webcam attacked. So I guess my webcam's a grandmother. Hey, get over here, you whippersnapper! Ah! Slicing her face open with paper cuts. Hammo balled them up and dipped them into Megan's blood so they won't be able to get up from being all soggy. What? 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 Because Megan's granny webcam attacked, slicing her face open with paper cuts. So is my webcam made out of paper? And then this next sentence, Hammo balled them up and dipped them into Megan's blood so they wouldn't be able to get up from being all soggy? What? 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 This doesn't make any sense. Then there was only the Harry Poster poster left. Bitch, I'ma turn you into a real hamster so I may stomp you to death. And it jumped at Hammo. Just then the poster was about to case its spell. Don't you mean cast its spell? Oh my god, this is just so laughable. Hammo took out her favorite lighter and lit the poster on fire. The poster screamed and it ran around the room, lighting everything else on fire as well. Hammo went around the room and stole Megan's computer and anything she thought was valuable and ran out of Megan's home. Okay, seeing this is supposed to take place when I was still living at my parents', I think my parents would have noticed that something bad was going on downstairs, seeing the sound in my parents' house travels really easily. It burned to the ground and the police deemed it a suicide. Hammohamster posted the video of the FanFic Critic brutally killing herself on YouTube and it became the most watched video on the site. Hammo became world famous. Ellen DeGeneres, Jay Leno, David Letterman, Conan asked her to, don't you mean Ann Conan, asked her to be a guest star on their shows, and she explained that the FanFic Critic killed herself because she read one of her stories. Oprah surprised Hammo with a contract to a publisher so she may publish her works to the world. Hammohamster became a millionaire and lived happily ever after. Wow, this girl is delusional. Yeah, you would probably be on TV if something like this happened, but it wouldn't be because you would be on talk shows. No, it would be because you'd be thrown in jail for being a psychopath. The end. And I would never really write a story about Billy Mason and Michael Jackson because they are just not, because that is just not right. Huh. So her mood is horny. And the music is Busta Rhymes and Rick James in the Ghetto. Yeah. Well, my thoughts on this story. Well, it was very entertaining to say the least, I will admit. It definitely had me laughing. Of course, the story made less and less sense as it went on. And I think this story proves one thing. Hammohamster has not learned a frickin' thing. She has not. She has not. You know, I know that this story was written a year ago, and I can understand at the time why she wrote it, although I still think the story itself is very childish and just kind of shows that she's not right in the head. But, you know, I can kind of understand with her mentality. But here's the thing. This incident between me and her happened, I don't know, back in January of 2011. And the date now, this was posted May 26th, 2012. So you've been holding this grudge for this long because you say that I quote-unquote humiliated you. So what exactly did you think you were going to accomplish by posting this? Do you think you were going to humiliate me? You didn't humiliate me at all. In fact, this was incredibly entertaining. This made me laugh. I'm not really mad about the fanfic itself because it's just so freaking hilarious. But, you know, what angers me is that, you know, you just haven't learned anything. You haven't. And you've just made a bigger fool out of yourself. And if you're going to say that I'm being a bitch for making this video and reading this and saying all this, then you know what, go ahead. But I'm sorry, Hammohamster. At this point, if any more hate you get, whether it has anything to do with me reading your fanfics or not, you deserve. Because you're just never going to learn anything. You just aren't. You are pathetic. You truly are pathetic. My only advice I can give to you now is just stop posting your fanfics on the internet. Just stop writing fanfics altogether. And keep your little sick fantasies to yourself. Okay? Okay. Well, thank you all for watching this one and only dramatic reading. The next episode of FanFic Critic will be airing Friday. So I hope you guys enjoy my very lame and unfunny show. I will see you all then.